I just want to be free.
I can set you free.
Julie, good morning.
Good morning, Benny. How are you? Happy Friday.
Just
TGIF.
fine. Looking to be prosecuted because I said the Pledge of Allegiance by the FBI. Here. I'm sure you read this article from Miranda Devine and these FBI emails. Now you know many people in this J6 choir. You've talked about it on our program. What does it say about the mental state of the FBI that they were like rabidly frothing at the mouth, looking to prosecute Donald Trump for saying the Pledge of Allegiance in a charitable song for J6 prisoners?
Right. So it just, again, shows these dirty cops at the FBI, these dirty prosecutors like J.P. Cooney, who I've covered for years.
Yes.
In fact, get this, J.P. Cooney, who has left the Department of Justice, he was on Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team. He was on Jack Smith's team. I sat next to him in April in Jeb Bossberg's courtroom when he was holding a hearing related to the president's Alien Enemies Act. He's still following the lawfare, J.P. Cooney, that he helped initiate. And so what these emails demonstrate, confirm once again, is that they were desperate to find anything because the J6 indictment was so weak, 4 counts, 2 of them eventually tossed by the Supreme Court. They were so weak, that indictment, that they were looking for anything else. So enriching himself or some sort of conspiracy charge, probably. But this is what Pam Bondi and her team and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are up against at this DOJ and FBI. These aren't one-offs, right, Benny? We know this. This is a systematically corrupt organization weaponized against Donald Trump, his associates, and his voters. And, kudos for Chuck Grassley for forcing, getting these documents, for Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to release them. And I am certain, and I'm hearing that much more we will be getting more disclosures soon.
Good. I mean, this week, the disclosure of just the Chinese nationals and the Communist Party trying to rig our elections is pretty huge. It seems like not only is that massive, but also that might explain the 20 million disappearing votes that happened in the year 2020. It may also explain why it was covered up. Why Kash Patel says there's this locked room at the FBI that had all this like evidence shoved away into it. Chris Wray was asked about this. He's like, "Oh, that's nothing." It seems like something, obviously. But what do you make of this?
It's difficult to get these documents. It's not like we have talked about, Benny. It's not like Chris Wray or Merrick Garland or Lisa Monaco just left all of these records on nice little piles on Pam Bondi's desk or Kash Patel's desk, right? They have to really dig in, find the right people, understand where these are archived or housed, and then get them, send them over to Senator Grassley and others who are requesting them, and then release. So it is a very involved process with people still at the DOJ and FBI who don't want to help them, right? They want to be part of the cover-up. So I see that the president today is asking for a special prosecutor to look into 2020 election fraud. We'll see how that unfolds. I think that the DOJ and FBI are doing a really good job so far, but if this is sort of the tip of the iceberg, even for China, let alone all of the other malfeasance that we know happened before and on election day in 2020, this is an almost insurmountable task to expose all of it.
It seems like, though, the special prosecutor would at the very least put a very large chilling effect on potential voter fraud. I mean, if you know that you're going to take it seriously and people are going to go to jail, and you just have to put a couple people in handcuffs, right? And march them out and make them the face of this, then it really does limit the operation, right? It sends a message.
It absolutely does. And I'm wondering if this is what Chuck Grassley, the FBI and DOJ are working towards, and that could be some sort of perjury charge against Christopher Wray, because as you know, when you've played his testimony in September of 2020, where he downplayed any Chinese interference, because of course, Benny, he was emphasizing again the Russians, right? The Ruskies are working with Donald Trump and MAGA world to rig the 2020 election again. So, and also, let's put this in context of what the FBI also was doing at that point. Burying the Hunter Biden laptop, which they had had since December of 2019, working intimately with big tech companies. Elvis Chan out of the FBI San Francisco field office in daily communications with big tech to designate any reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop as disinformation, foreign disinformation, Russian disinformation. And of course, Benny, my personal favorite FBI interference in the 2020 election, the Whitmer Fednapping hoax. All of this was happening at the same time, August, September, October of 2020. So this was a wide-ranging operation by Chris Wray's FBI on the watch of Bill Barr, by the way, the Attorney General, to do whatever they could to make sure that Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump in November of 2020.
That's very interesting that you bring up Bill Barr. He's become a titular character in this story, mainly because of his inaction or because of his potential cover-up capacity, whether it's we're talking about Epstein or whether we're talking about him saying, no, there was absolutely no election fraud at all. And we can put up map after map and story after story, and we would do it for the next 7 hours until our voice cracked and broke to talk about all of the election fraud that occurs in this country. There is mass election fraud that happens, but it's Bill Barr who looks at graphs like this and says, no, this is perfectly fine, right? Like it's Bill Barr who looks at the graphs like the 20 million people that just disappeared election to election, 20 million Democrats that just, I guess, they just must be such good Christians that they raptured early, I think, is what happened here, Julie. What the hell?
Well,
what the hell's going on with Bill Barr? Like, can you explain this?
Right. So I think Bill Barr needs to answer some questions. And this is going to be tough for Republicans, especially in the Senate, to do. But remember, it was Bill Barr on November 30th of 2020 who told not the president that there was no evidence, at least decisive evidence of election or voting fraud. He told the Associated Press. That's how we found out about it. So Bill Barr, less than a month after the election day of 2020, telling the Associated Press there is no evidence of election or voting fraud that would have changed the results. How did he know? As we know, it was only what, Benny, at that point, 30, 40,000 vote difference in 2020 between a few states that determined that Joe Biden had won the election. So Bill Barr needs to answer for this, with this destroyed report, intelligence report about Chinese interference to try to help Joe Biden. He needs to answer why they kept Hunter Biden's laptop under wraps and this FBI operation to designate it as any reporting as foreign disinformation. And I will add the Whitmer Fednapping hoax that I know from my reporting and covering both federal trials, that this went up to the top echelon of the FBI and the DOJ. Bill Barr, not only complicit because he's the Attorney General, right? The FBI is under the Department of Justice. So complicit in either these operations, ignorant about it, which calls into question his management and why he was even there. But more importantly, his lackluster, non-existent, I guess, investigation into voting fraud in 2020. He has to answer these questions, Benny.
Yeah, I mean, his non-existent investigation into that, his non-existent investigation into the, into threats against Supreme Court justices, and it is like wild that people still hold him in any type of high regard. Is probably the single least effective or most effective, I guess, depending on where you're coming from, Attorney General, because he really was able to finish the job there in 2020. He was able to complete the dirty hoax that they ran on the president and the American people. And they did so with this air of, this smug air of entitlement and DC swamp that is just repulsive when you look back on it. Okay.
Well, keep in mind too, Benny, he threatened to quit if Donald Trump fired Chris Wray, which he wanted to do in 2019 and 2020. Bill Barr threatened to quit. Now, unfortunately, He didn't allow that to happen. Donald Trump should have said, great, I get a twofer. I get rid of Chris Wray and Bill Barr, put somebody else in there. So this is how he was not only running his department and the FBI, he was very close with Chris Wray, but also attempting to bully the president to keep in place a wholly corrupt, dishonest, and partisan actor, Chris Wray, as head of the FBI.
It's incredible to have actual motion on this, to have Kash Patel giving up these documents, and to be able to hopefully maybe see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. I know that you're very well sourced, Julie. Can you elucidate for our audience what's going to come next? What do you expect out of this Grassley reveal? This is probably the largest reveal we've ever had when it comes to mass election fraud. This Chinese operation, linked, of course, with the Border Patrol finding 20,000 Chinese-made fake IDs at the border. Well, if they found them, how many actually got into the country? We know that Chinese nationals voted in the 2024 election, and those votes counted. We know they're being charged and prosecuted. We know that this op happened and that it's still happening in the country. We have the photos of the fake IDs that are all Chinese that came across. I mean, this is a real op, wasn't it, Julie?
It appears to be that way. Now, there are other reasons why people get fake IDs from China. So that could be part of it too. But I am told that there is a lot more coming related to Chinese interference in the election. So we will be standing by to see what that is. But to your point, where is this going? Well, we can't just have letters and records released, right? We can't just say this was happening. These top officials lied. They covered it up. They tried to divert attention away from election interference to, the Whitmer Fednapping hoax, or, this Russian disinformation campaign we were told about, the Biden family crime racket. So there has to be accountability. So I don't think that Senator Grassley and his staff, or certainly the FBI, Kash and Dan, are just releasing this to say, hey, we got the information. But look, statute of limitations is quickly winding down, right? So if you have a 5-year statute of limitations on a perjury count against Christopher Wray or any of his associates, or conspiracy charges, which is sort of what these emails about the J6 choir and other emails we have, right, Benny? You and I have talked about all the correspondence between the Biden White House and the DOJ, the National Archives, to concoct the classified documents case. We have all of those records. So again, this is the huge agenda on the desk of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi and her team. So we know that this was a wide-ranging conspiracy. But look, if we have a 5-year statute of limitations, that's coming up rather quickly. So let's hope that this is exactly the direction where the DOJ and FBI, with Senator Grassley, where this is headed.
We have Senator Ron Johnson on right after you, so I just want to end with this. What would be your recommendation, given the fact that you are a subject matter expert on January 6th, on this 2020 election, and on the corruption inside of the FBI? Clearly, the Judiciary Committee is finally doing real work on this, and we're thankful for that under Grassley and under Ron Johnson. What would be your advice?
Well, my advice would be to put together some criminal referrals. So if they send criminal referrals to the DOJ and FBI about what they have uncovered, Ron Johnson from the very beginning, very skeptical about what happened on January 6th, send some criminal referrals, and that should help get the ball rolling.
Yes. Any names you would recommend?
I have so many names, but I think given what we have right now, we could start with Chris Wray. I think that there is a very solid case that he committed perjury, and not only his testimony, but documents that he also signed off on that said the Chinese did not meaningfully interfere with the election.
All right. Well, thank you, Julie. Godspeed. Everybody follow Julie Kelly, obviously. And again, Julie Kelly has been so wonderful to me and my family. She once sent my kids ice cream. I know, it's possible. She sent us ice cream in the mail, which was so cool, in this giant cooler when we had our third baby. And so we're very thankful for Julie Kelly. We will be sending her Ethernet and a gig up and a gig down for all of her incredible media hits. Godspeed, Julie. We love you, and everybody go follow Julie Kelly. 870,000 Americans already do. Be one of them. Godspeed.
Thanks, Benny.